everyone. Welcome back to the Psychedelic Entrepreneur Medicine for These Times. I am so honored today to have a client of mine and also a friend and a peer in this beautiful psychedelic space, Sinclair Fleetwood. Thanks for being with us, Sinclair.
Thanks so much for having me, Beth. I'm so happy to be here.
But really quickly, let me introduce you to Sinclair. So Sinclair is the founder of Mystical Heart Collective and the Psychedelic Integration Podcast. She is living proof of the transformational power of psychedelics. She was called to heal with plant medicine after battling a life-threatening addiction and losing her father in prison to violence and alcoholism. Sinclair spent 2 years living in the Andes Mountains of Ecuador and working closely with ayahuasca and San Pedro, ancestral rituals, and shamanic ceremony, healing in retreat with more than 400 people during her time managing operations at a medicine retreat center. During her time in the trenches of the ayahuasca industry, she saw a disturbing and reckless trend. There was no real preparation, aftercare, or integration support being offered. Components that are absolutely vital to completing the healing circle created through working with psychedelics. Now, as a trained and certified transformational and psychedelic integration coach, Sinclair provides experienced holistic guidance throughout the entire psychedelic journey. Sinclair specializes in working with healers, facilitators, empaths, and those on the medicine path who are ready to level up so that you can thrive, enjoy your life, and be in service at your highest possible capacity. And Sinclair, I can't wait to get into it because your story is just so beautiful and fascinating. And I always love when I meet people that I say are like the poster children for the power of these beautiful plant medicines. And I think in some ways we all are, right? But let's hear your story. You know, what brought you to go into psychedelic integration work? You know, what was the path you were on when you went and worked in the retreat center? You know, where'd you come from?
So I had my first psychedelic journey with mushrooms when I was 19. So I started, like, the veil was lifted then, and I kind of realized, like, okay, everything that I thought I knew about everything is wrong. And I think that seed got planted in me pretty early. I know you had a similar experience when you were 14 with LSD, but that I had a lot of psychedelic experiences recreationally as, you know, in my 20s and 30s, and where I was like getting messages about myself, but it was more in a fun, you know, party, rave kind of festival vibe. And I also had some pretty difficult experiences. And like the more that I worked with the mushrooms, the more I would have like a little bit of a harder time. And I worked in my earlier career. I worked in nonprofit. I worked for the Red Cross for 8 years in Austin, and I worked in a substance abuse treatment center, and I worked in education, and like I was a big activist for, you know, women's reproductive rights, and so I always wanted to help, but I was doing it in a very martyr-y kind of way, like, and I was a raging alcoholic. Like I did not have a good relationship with my father. He was kind of absent, and I loved him very much, but he was also an addict, and we had like a kind of, this is the symbol for our relationship, was just like, I'm so much like you, and I love you, and I want your attention, but I don't know how to do it other than to like party with him. And like, you know, we had a very dysfunctional relationship, and I learned how to use alcohol to push my feelings down, and drugs. And so I spent most of my 20s and 30s in an addictive, being like the functional party girl, you know, like always having fun, doing crazy, amazing things. I like worked at South by Southwest, and I volunteered for ACL, and I like got to meet tons of people and do, you know, I had a cool life, but I was miserable inside. I was in tons of debt. I was really overweight at one point. I weighed like 80 pounds more than I do now. Like I wasn't healthy, and I was really being very reckless with myself. And as I continued on that path, I ended up kind of getting sober for a few years. And that's when I worked at the treatment center, and I started getting glimpses of like this natural version of me, this like friendly, optimistic, like fun, funny lady that was in here. And I was like, wow, I really actually think I like this person. And but I didn't know how to like myself when I was drinking because I was doing so much stuff that felt so shameful. And then I ended up like relapsing while I was working at the rehab because I wasn't doing any healing. Like I wasn't drinking, but I wasn't healing the trauma underneath. And during that time, my dad went to prison for assaulting his girlfriend, and he ended up dying 6 months later after he was sentenced. And he got a really harsh sentence, and the trial was like very traumatic for my family, and it was a whole thing. And so I had this relapse, and I was kind of in the relapse. I was in this abusive relationship. I got out of that. And then a friend of mine, this new friend that I met, was like, the minute she met me, she's like, I want to take you to Burning Man. And I was like, Burning Man? Those people are crazy. That's true. So I was very resistant at first. And then I don't know, something happened. I started like opening myself to the idea of like going to this festival, being a person that went to Burning Man. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to get a ticket to this because it's like impossible. This was in 2016. And I wrote this like message on a message board. And I was like, here's why I want to go to Burning Man. I want to take my dad's ashes there. And I feel very called to do this. And I want to put them in the temple. And I like, please, somebody ticket, like angel me, be my playa angel. Cause I was like getting with the lingo and stuff. And this guy from Austin read this post and like sold me a ticket, and just, it like the synchronicities started happening. Everything just started getting really easy. I was like, okay, I think I'm really meant to go do this. And so in 2016, I went to Burning Man, and I was working at a nonprofit in Austin at the time, and I really hated my job, and I was really sick. Like I was having a bunch of health issues, and I just was like, whatever, I'm going to the desert. And I went to the desert, and something happened to me there with mushrooms and MDMA and just being in an environment where I could radically be myself. And I had never been around people that were so comfortable with their weirdness and like so open with their creativity. And I was so inspired, and like, it was so hard. It was just so physically hard. And the clincher was kind of when I saw the temple that year. It was a Japanese pagoda. And my dad was like obsessed with Asian architecture and art. Like he loved Japanese art. And when I saw it, I like collapsed onto the ground. I was just like, I can't believe that this is here. And I had, like I think everyone does at Burning Man, this like one time where I got really lost out there by myself and was like, had a bunch of MDMA, and I was like having this whole thing with the playa, and then this lotus appeared, and then a woman came into my camp and was like, your playa name is Lotus. And I was like, I don't know, this is crazy. This is like, is this really happening? And it felt all so right. And I just saw this version of myself there. I felt this version of myself there that felt very true. And this, after years of kind of not having a relationship with spirit, being a staunch, liberal atheist, like activist, like there's no such thing as any of that. I started to open like, actually, I think there is something there. I mean, I feel my dad's presence with me. Like I can feel, it feels like the universe is conspiring in my favor. And I started to feel spiritually awake in a way that I never had before. And so that journey led me to a year of just burning my life down, basically. I came back to Austin and I quit my job, and I was just like, not this. I just started selling all my furniture. I was like, I had no idea what I was doing. I did the forest fire version of this, and I tell my clients, I'm like, you don't have to do it this way. This is not really like a great way, but if you need to, it's okay. Like some people, this is what I needed. I needed to really just go for it. And I didn't have any income, and then I got $8,000 from an old 401k. Like it just, everything sort of fell into place. And then in 2017, I started freelancing. I quit my job. I was freelancing as a web designer. So I was kind of like starting to be an entrepreneur and starting to work for myself, but I didn't know what I was doing. And I wasn't really that passionate about it. It was just something I was good at. I got in a car accident on my way home from yoga class. And that is what I call my cosmic bitch slap. Like the universe literally punched me in the face with another car, and like I broke my nose and my hand got broken, and I was like all banged up and beat up, and my car was smashed. And I realized like my time in Austin is over. Like I can't be here anymore. I don't know. I didn't have a car. It's like impossible to be there without a car. And I ended up moving home with my mom back to Amarillo, where I'm from, in the panhandle of Texas. And I was just sort of lost, and like really, like the addiction was getting worse and worse. And that second year I went back to Burning Man. I got another ticket. Like I was able to go, and I went by myself and camped with some people that I didn't know very well. And that was my reckoning. I had like went hard into the booze and the drugs when I got there, and it was like one of the hottest years, 2017, the radical ritual year.
Crazy.
It was a hard year for a lot of people, and that was the year I quit drinking alcohol at Burning Man, like on Wednesday, like early in the middle of the week. I was like, if I keep doing this, I'm going to die, and I don't think I want to die. I think I want to live. And so I had my dark night of the soul and my like initiation of, at the playa. And I went to a sober camp, and I think it's called Run Free. I love those people. I was not an AA person, but they took such good care of me for like a whole day. And then I just like the rest of the time I started drying out. I burned my addiction in the temple that year. I like went out there and had this ceremony and this radical ritual. And then I went to Zendo afterwards, and I was like, I'm not having a psychotic or, psychedelic break. I just need to share this with somebody. And this beautiful woman, Karina, she was there to support me and listen to me and just like witness me. And I was like, I think I'm sober. Like I don't know how this is different from the hundreds of times that I've tried to do this, but it has, and I haven't had a drink since. That was 5 years ago. So from there, I was living at home, and I was like, oh, fuck, what do I do now? And then I was like very lonely, and I didn't have a lot of friends, and I was getting sober by myself. And I met someone online, and he was going to South America. And so I thought, what a great idea. I'll follow this guy I don't know down to South America, which now I look at as like, oh, the universe was like, how are we going to get her to the medicine? Oh, yeah, she'll follow this guy because that's what she does. So I ended up going to meet this man, and he was like an adventure man. That's what I called him. He like hiked and climbed things and stuff. So he was going to climb the Inca Trail to go to Machu Picchu. And I was not a person that had done that kind of thing, but I was like, oh, sure, I'll try it. This sounds fun. No, this was not good for me. I got very sick. I got food poisoning and altitude sickness on the first day. So I spent one night up there, and I became like violently ill, and I had to basically climb back down, like walk back down the mountain by myself with this like angry Peruvian Sherpa who was carrying my stuff, and he's like, you need to pick up the pace. And I'm like, I'm literally like puking, and I have poop in my pants right now. Like, please be nice to me. And I had this hallucination or like vision, and ayahuasca came to me out of this mountain and was like, are you ready to stop doing this? Are you ready to do something different? And I knew it was her, and I knew of her. I had known of these medicines, especially since I had been down there, but I had no plans to do anything with it. And I was like, okay, well, yes, I think I'm ready, but not in Peru because this is like too intense. So the guy that I was with, we ended up going to Machu Picchu, and he came back down. He broke up with me on the bus back to Cuzco, and his father died while he was up there. So it was this crazy convergence of like, I don't know what was going on, but he had to leave. And so I ended up in South America by myself with no money. And I had this, like, I had to get to Arequipa, and then, so I'm traveling alone in South America. It's my very first time to do that. I had traveled in Europe alone a little bit, but not, South America is a different vibe. And I ended up in Ecuador, and as soon as I got there, I was like, this place, this feels good. It's like, the vibe there was my vibe, and I said, this is where I want to drink medicine. And I turned 40 in Ecuador by myself, and on my 40th birthday, I was like, I'm making a promise to myself. I'm going to spend the next year healing myself and focusing on myself. Like no more dating, no more craziness. I want to stay sober. I don't want to go back to that. And I want to take this and I want to know what this medicine is about. So I booked a medicine retreat and I left and came back home, and then I was like, I'm just going to travel. I'd gotten a bunch of money from that car accident. So I had the ability to like go travel. And instead of like saving it and buying a house or something, getting a job, I was like, no, I'm going to go to South America and do whatever. And I don't have a plan. And that was my first time to ever not have a plan. I was like not a person without a plan. And I went to the retreat, and it blew me open. It was San Pedro and ayahuasca together were such a perfect combination for me, and receiving it from the teachers that I received it from, who I still work with now, just everything like made sense. And it was sort of the key to this lock of myself that I had been trying to find for so long. And as soon as I finished that retreat, I was like, this is something that I want to help other people experience, because it's so good. So that's how I ended up getting to the medicine. And then I stayed as a volunteer for a little while, and they offered me a job at the center. And so I kept traveling, went back to Burning Man one more time, and then I went and became a manager at this place. And by like the third or fourth month I was there, I was like running the whole place. It's a crazy story.
Yeah, your story is really incredible. It's so funny. I've never heard the whole thing. I've heard bits and pieces, and it's actually quite similar to mine. You know, it was like numbing and drugs and alcohol and, you know, like pretty much like self-healing, you know, which is definitely challenging, doing it by yourself, kind of on your own, like path, taking initiative. But, you know, there you go. It's like you're living proof that is possible. But of course, you know, it is a lot easier when you have support. Now, I'm curious, you know, when was the point where you decided, because again, your story is very similar to mine, where I was already coaching people, and then I started noticing, and within medicine communities, including like the one that I'm kind of regular at, where there was like not a lot of actual integration happening. I'm like, why is everybody having such a hard time making real changes in their life? Why, you know, because for me, I was always able to just like keep going, and a lot of other people would stay stuck in loops. And that's when I noticed like something's off here. I'm curious, you know, what happened to you where you decided, you know, I want to maybe start a business with integration support and coaching and helping others?
So I worked as a manager at this retreat center, which I actually never really say the name of it because it was a really difficult experience there. Like the medicine work was so powerful, the people were amazing, but the owner was pretty abusive, and it felt really bad there after a while. And I did not know what integration was. I was working in a retreat center that did no integration. And there was really no preparation either. It was just sort of like pay your money online, like they don't interview people. Whoever come, you know, there's some screening questions, but coming from a nonprofit background, I just started seeing like red flag. And I would ask questions and I would get shut down. And then I started getting in trouble. Like I was like the troublemaker, of course. This is what always happened to me. I was always making trouble, being like, this isn't a safe way something bad is going to happen here. And then we started having like a guy tried to commit suicide during a retreat. And that was like early when I was there. And then another guy who was a former guest had a psychotic break and flew to the center and just showed up there. And he was in a cocaine-induced like psychotic break. And there was no plan to take care of him. There was no medical, treatment or anything in the city. Like they didn't have a therapist luckily there was a psychiatric nurse volunteering with us. But the plan was y'all just babysit this kid and his family's going to come and get him. And I was just sort of appalled at this. Like, I did not understand how you could be giving medicine to people and have so little concern for what happens to them afterwards. And that was not just happening to the guests, but the volunteers that were coming were a lot of young people who were really confused. And a lot of them had been, suicidal. And like, these were kids. And I'm in my 40s. So I'm like, older. I'm like kind of becoming like the mom of the group, and I'm just looking at this, and then I also am feeling in myself like I'm not integrating. I'm taking care of all these other people, but I'm not really, I don't have any support. I have to figure it out myself. And so the more that I saw this kind of happening, I would hear people would, they're like, I'm sober, I'm never going to use heroin again or whatever. And then they would go home and like get right back in the same situation that made them sick with no support. And as soon as I left the job there, because it just got overwhelmingly late, I was like, this is harming me. Like, there's no amount of ayahuasca that is going to make this better. And that is how bad it is. Like, it's bad if you're spending all of your ceremonies processing what your boss is doing to you, So I had started teaching workshops there and kind of like doing self-love work and self-acceptance work, and started to feel into the things that people were struggling with. And when we left, I was like, I want to do something to take care of people all around this experience, because you can get medicine anywhere. You can take mushrooms at home, you can buy whatever from the dark net. Like, people are getting the medicine. I don't need to give you the medicine. There's people that are doing it, especially with these ancestral medicines. It should be someone that has a long training experience. This is not something you can just take a 2-week course online and then now you're a shaman. Like, that was, and so many people were like, I want to be a shaman. And I was like, I don't think you want to be a shaman. Like, you want to share your medicine. So how can I support someone to do that? And actually the program that I ended up building was something that I needed myself, because I didn't know how. I was messed up. I was like, I don't know how to be in the death cult, is what we call it. But like the regular world, I don't know how to function in this world anymore. I've been living in an intentional community where everybody's loving and everyone's on medicine all the time. And like, it was a shock to come back to the US. And so I wanted to bring some of that magic that I felt inside that maloka into a support system that could actually help people change their lives, rather than just have this peak experience that feels good for a while, but nothing really happens,
Oh, that's such a beautiful share. And wow, it's so eye-opening. But I mean, the reality is we've all seen some level of, the ups and downs of kind of the medicine world, like, again, it all comes back to not having this proper support and doing the integration and also like having the ego in check. And I really love what you said about creating a program for yourself. It's like creating what you think that you needed and sharing that with others, which essentially, I'm a really big believer that most of us service-centered entrepreneurs are on this path of basically creating, like, hey, this is what I would have wanted back then, or this is what worked for me, or this is what I've figured it out. And, maybe you should give this a try. So let's talk about, what you're offering now and the kind of people that you work with now. And also, I would love to hear, like, what did you do maybe like a year ago or a year and a half ago before you joined the True Path Entrepreneur Mastermind program? And what are you up to now? Like, and how has your business shifted?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, well, when I started out, I wanted to do coaching. I knew I wanted to be a coach, but I hadn't really worked with a coach. I had done a lot of therapy, talk therapy, and tried different, worked with other healers, but coaching always really inspired me, I think. And I can't remember exactly how I like put these two things together. I think somebody that had been to our retreat had done a coach training. And so I'm a triple Capricorn. So I'm like, okay, what class can I take? So I did a training, with Being True to You, and it was good. It was like really academic and really, like going deep into the substance abuse treatment side and stuff, which I was not really like that interested in working with people specifically who are overcoming addiction. I think everybody has some kind of addiction that they are working through. So I don't specialize in working with people with like acute addiction, but that was kind of where I was starting. But that program really inspired me because it didn't give me what I wanted, which was I wanted a spiritually based, like grounded, earthy program that felt holistic, where I felt like this is not just about my mind and like trying to learn. And I spend enough time up here. I wanted to bring it to my heart, and I wanted to, for me, being in my body has been a big issue. I spent a lot of time checked out of my body, and I was also at the same time as this, like I started having chronic pain. Like as soon as I stopped drinking, my body started hurting everywhere, which I wasn't really dealing with at the time. But I know now that like also really led me while I was doing this work to figure out, okay, what do I want to offer? So I kind of, I started out just talking to people and doing free coaching and offering. I was doing this work with my partner, John, who I met we were both working at the center, and it was like a beautiful love story. I met my person, and we tried to start this together, and it was working a little bit. Like, I built a website, and I like started doing all of the stuff I knew how to do because had been a web designer, and I saw what people were doing on Instagram. So I was kind of like emulating that. And I didn't have any strategy or business, I didn't know about the business side. I knew what my spiritual message was, but I didn't know about the business side. But I did know that I wanted to create I was spending time when I was doing these calls with people, kind of explaining the spiritual concepts to them and teaching a lot on the call. And I wanted to be able to support them wherever they were, but I needed them to know a bunch of stuff that they didn't know. So I ended up creating a digital course, and that is now part of my program. So the program that ended up kind of growing from, I started it as more just the digital course with like a group component, but now it's a hybrid program it's called Rise and Align. And the philosophy of it is the rising is rising into your highest self. So with the medicine, with your actions, your way of being, raising into what you're meant to be instead of being stuck in your trauma or stuck in your old stories or stuck in your limiting beliefs. So that's half of it. And a lot of that can come from the medicine. So you get this vision of like how you want to be and not how you want to be, but like how you actually are. It's sort of a remembering of who you are. So that's the rising. And then the alignment is all of the stuff to keep yourself there, to stay heart-centered, to stay on this path, because it's so easy to just like have the peak experience and it propels you for a while. But then if you're not like getting support and having really a strategy to take you through all these different seasons of the integration experience, because everything is integration. It's like everything is integration. Everything that is happening to you is this teacher for you, and shifting your perspective to see it like that instead of like being in a victim mentality, like that was a big one for me of like, oh, everything bad is always happening to me. And I'm like, now I'm creating this because that's what happens until you learn your way out of it. So Rise and Align is you can do a 3 months or 6 months with me, but it's a group private hybrid. So I do 2 group calls a month with a group, and then you get 1 private call a month. And we have, an online group in Discord, and I have this digital course. So there's like a curriculum that goes through the whole thing. And I really created it for people who are in service and that doesn't necessarily mean they're like working with medicine. Service is so many things. You can be a plumber and be in service. I have a palliative care doctor that's one of my clients who works in a cancer. He cares for people with cancer, and it's so beautiful to see someone like that who is in such a difficult job find these medicines, and not only are they doing the work themselves, but they're like, how can I take this into my practice? Like, I want to help people who are at the end of their life have these experiences. And then I have, other clients I've had a nurse who was like a manager of a big poison control center. And I've had lots of different service people who have nothing to do with psychedelics. But the service aspect for me is really big, because I think there's so many of us that care and that want to help and want to help the world like unfuck itself, I guess is the word. But we're so stuck in our own crap that we can't do what we're here to do. And so you have to start with that first, right? So this work is about you. It's about the service work will come, and the business will come easily when you do the work yourself. And you have been my biggest teacher on that. Like, I thought I was getting into your mastermind because I was going to learn how to get clients and like make more money. And what I got was really a spiritual teacher. And that's exactly what I needed, because I had it all wrong. I was like, well, I need to do. I need to do this. I need to do this. And instead, it's actually, I need to be different. I need to like be myself. And, like, that really helped me so much more than, you learn a lot of business stuff in there, and I needed that too. Especially, I love, your heart research process has been, I'm planning to do it again. I love doing it. It's so fun. But the techniques are important. But if you're doing those techniques from a mindset of the old way, or, the old kind of hyper masculine, like hustle way, it's not going to work. So the mastermind is a beautiful place to have a container with other people who are going through the same thing as you in all these different beautiful ways. And we all have been able to, I love our group so much. We've all been able to just like do all of this together, and people are really like, so much is going on in there. Everybody's moving and people getting different jobs, and it's just like been amazing. I love it.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing this. And you pointed out that you're helping people in service, and it's funny because yesterday I'm teaching a class for psychedelics today right now, and I was like, look, if you're on this path of helping people, coach, healer, therapist, nurse, whatever it is, herbalist, you need to have your own support. It can't be this imbalance, which is a very kind of old paradigm, like, especially with women. It's a very, it's like a common thing in our history of like giving so much and then not taking care of ourselves. And we are entering into these times where we need to have this kind of even, or balance in our lives of like, okay, I need to be supported with my own integration, with my own mindset, my own healing, my own path, so that I can actually serve at a higher level, because if that's out of balance, that's where people get sick or burn out or start to hate. I said in this class yesterday, I said, look, I would never want to work with a facilitator or a psychedelic assisted therapist who hates their job. Could you imagine you show up and they're like rolling their eyes while they give you your mushrooms to do a 5-hour therapy session? Come on, that would be horrible. So this work that you're doing, providing, help and support and integration for people in this service area, I think is going to be like, I say it's almost a non-negotiable to have some kind of support. Like, I have never quit doing my own integration. And if anything, having support expedites everything much faster. And it's like, oh, then you get the benefits of the medicine or other modalities you're doing. And I love what you brought up about the mastermind, that it's, a spiritual program and not a business program. But I will point out that you had one of your biggest months ever, I think. Last month, was it?
That's true. October, yeah. Yeah, it was. That's what I'm saying. It is like there is all of this business, stuff like the sales process. That's really the main reason I ended up joining, because I knew I was a little bit ahead. Like, I had been doing it a while. I have a pretty good, marketing idea. Yeah. I'm a good writer. Like, I knew I had an email list. I had all of this stuff. I wanted to learn how to connect with people and to not to sell to them, but to understand how to attract. I didn't have the language right. Like, I would think I have to get these, like, the way I was thinking about it was, I need to get these people to come, and like, how do I find that, and instead of thinking of it like, oh, you just turn your light on and then they come to you. Like, that's the real way. And going through the process helped me enabled me to find my own kind of remix of what you teach to make it really my own. And I love that you encourage that in your program. It's like, here is the system. take what resonates and leave the rest. And that's what I always do say to my clients in my work as well. Like, not everything I'm going to teach you is going to resonate, but it's going to spark something that does. So I really love that about it. And I don't know, I was so desperate around my business when I started. I was so afraid. I had so much fear. What if this doesn't work? I was so attached to it working out. And I don't have any of that now. I am very easy. Like, I'm very easy with it. And I recognize that, like, everything happens when it's supposed to. And, all delays are beneficial, and, rejection is protection. And like all of these things where it's just like, you know what, if this isn't the highest way that I'm meant to serve, show me what to do. Like, I don't have to be a coach like this. I love doing this, and I would love doing something else if that was more beneficial to me and to the whole, like, I don't need, the attachment is gone. And that's the part that makes you feel, all clenched up. And like, people can feel that. Like, you don't want to work with someone that's like afraid of where their next money is coming from, or afraid of, what if I do it wrong? And now I'm like, I can't do it wrong. There's nothing, the people that come to me are here because we have a soul contract, and like, we're here because I'm meant to help them, and they're meant to show me. Because I think the client relationship with the coach and the coachee is a symbiotic learning relationship. I mean, I call my program a mentorship because I get just as much out of it as the clients do. I love working with people, and I love seeing this work through their eyes, and how it's just so beautiful to watch people break out of their limiting beliefs and like bloom. It's so rewarding. And it's, to see someone just not only have the big plant medicine experience, but have the big experience of having a good day when they haven't had any good days in a long time, or, realizing that they don't have to be depressed anymore, or, the anxiety is their body protecting them, like, and they can start to learn how to relax that, and then they're not anxious anymore, and they're not medicated anymore, and then they're like, wow, I think I could do something good with myself instead of worrying and being afraid and like being closed down and neurotic and whatever we all are these things. But you have to work on yourself first, and then the service comes. I think one of the biggest things that I see that I did myself was I jumped into service. And I'm not saying you need to like wait, forever until you're in service. If you feel called to be in service, that's part of what the medicine path is for. But a lot of people are using it as like a spiritual bypassing. They're like, well, I'm just going to take care of all these other people, so I don't really have to focus on myself. And I see that in business, where people are like, well, if this is going to help my business, then I'll do it. But I would never invest in myself, like, because I can't tell you how many people I've talked to who are like, well, I'm starting a business, so I can't afford to do your program because it's not going to return my investment. And I'm like, it is, but what? Okay. Like, that part is it's rampant. There's so many people that are like, well, I'll just turn this into a career, and that's how it'll fix. And I'm like, that path sucks. Like, don't do that.
The goal is to learn the hard way, right? Like,
it takes forever too. It's like, takes so much longer to do it like that. I can just kick myself. I'm like, God, you wasted so much time. But then I'm like, no, that was how long it needed to be.
We all did. Yeah, exactly. And you just said so much gold. And I just want to point out that you have come such a long way. And this is what makes me so happy. It's like, yes, the money is nice and the business is nice. And, now you've already added new offerings to your business, which is also so exciting. It's like you're expanding like so much from just a year ago. And even more importantly, you said it, it's like the way we start to become embodied in our way of being. And this is one thing I said from day one is I will never be the cookie cutter coach that's like, here's my formula, go use it. Because first of all, that doesn't work. We're all different humans. We have literal different blueprints. And these cookie cutters, and especially people in the realm that we're working with, right? Like medicine people or people on a spiritual path, the cookie cutter is very old paradigm. It's like, let's follow this generic way of doing things, and, maybe it'll work and maybe not. But when you're working with people who are, more energy sensitive, who are maybe more in tune and maybe just more energetically awake, they kind of see through a lot of that BS. And that's where when my favorite moment, and I knew it, it's almost like predictable. A lot of my clients go into this, I like to blame it on the Lionsgate in August, but a lot of my clients in August tend to go through this portal of being like, "Wah." And I get it because I go through it a lot. It's like at least once a year, there's a point where I'm like, oh my God, I'm just going to quit, or I hate this industry, or why am I doing this? But you went through this portal of kind of questioning, like, you know what? I don't like the way this is done. I don't like what the industry tells me. And I don't like the way coaches do that. And this is where I'm like, yes, because what it does is it's bringing you into yourself and your truth and your deepest alignment. And that is where the gold is located, is in your truth and your authenticity. And I've seen this so many times. And then, of course, that's when everything just started taking off for you, when you kind of rose out of this portal. And now, you're about to go to Ecuador. You're, expanding. You keep signing clients left and right. I think you're maybe even moving. And it's all interconnected. Yeah.
It's amazing how much doing this work has affected you kind of think of your business as this separate thing to your regular life, but it's not. The business is the spiritual path. It's the medicine path. And if you are called to be in, any kind of support around the medicine work or healing or, any spiritual business, it is your path. Your healing will happen in your business. It's not this separate thing. And we just think of it, the way that we think of it is so masculine, and we have to, like you said, bring it back into balance. And I've gained so much. I have always been very strong in the masculine side,
Capricorn.
I'm good at I'm good at following directions and being inspired and creating things and doing it even my course was I wanted there to be some tangible exercises and worksheets and all of these support things. And now that I created that, I'm glad that I have it. But a lot of the real heavy lifting work that I do is in the coaching group. It's in the conversations and the feminine side, because you can't have one without the other. You can't just do the meditation. You can't just do the journaling. All of that stuff is good, but it's not where the shift is happening. The shift is happening within you in this very intangible way. And I think those things help, and because they give you somewhere to put your attention, but it's not the formula that someone is teaching you is there to inspire you to do whatever it is that you need to do. And I think that's something that a lot of us, that are creating spiritual businesses have in common, is this lack of trust of ourselves. Because we've always been trying to fit into, the square peg into the round peg into a square hole. It doesn't fit. And so you've tried to make yourself fit. And when you don't fit, you're like, well, there must be something wrong with me, or maybe the way that I do things isn't right. And I've seen this in the mastermind a lot. There's a lot of really unique, different kinds of people in there that have completely different ways of experiencing the world and speaking, and that way, however you are, really, truly, when you're being truly authentic, someone needs that. Someone needs that medicine, specifically your medicine, the way that you are, not the way that somebody else is telling you to do it. So, but you also need the guidance of the coach to help you figure all this out, because it's really hard to figure it out on your own. So I don't know. I was terrified to join. I knew I wanted to join. I've always felt very attracted to your messaging, and I just love, I love you so much. You're such a great person, and you're such a great coach, and you give so much to the people. And your mastermind is your baby. This is just your, you hold us and you take care of us, and to get to spend all this time working with you has been such a gift that I gave to myself. And I didn't know what was going to happen. I was really scared. It's hard to make big investments. And I tell people who are interested in my program, I'm like, yeah, this is scary on purpose. It's supposed to be scary. You need to show up for this. If you pay me $500, you're not going to come to anything, and you're not going to get anything out of it. So I think you have to throw some skin in the game to make it count. And also, people in service deserve to be paid well as well. You know, it's like this whole other realm of why do we think it's okay for billionaires who like are, you know, capital, whatever it is, venture capitalists, like they can make a lot of money, but people who are, you know, saving lives with their spiritual work, like shamans, should be working for free. Come on. That's just an old broken story that doesn't serve. Yeah. So it's cool to usher it. Like, it made me feel so empowered to throw down the money for this program. And I think for some people, Jonathan in our group, Jonathan Schechter is in our group, and he said, I thought spending the money was going to be the hardest part of this program. and we're all like, no, that was like the easy part. Now you have to do the work.
It's like, I always say my program's like a gigantic ayahuasca journey that goes on for a year. But, you know, but like, you know, especially those of us medicine people or people on this kind of deep healing path, we know that, that it's not always easy. There's the ups and the downs and the challenges and the expansions, and this is the life. And you said, you know, you said a lot about the healing path, like being on this path as a healer or a giver or, you know, a service. This is part of the service. It's like, it's all intertwined. And I've written about this in the past too, where when you step onto this path of service, and not from a place of bypassing and just serving and not doing any of your work, but, you know, balancing it out, then your healing, you know, your growth actually expedites so much quicker. I mean, I've noticed it year after year after year. I'm like, oh, that was so much easier to get through. And it's like you said, just trusting ourselves and taking those initial steps, even if it's scary, and jumping into the fire. It just gets easier and easier over time, where next time you go through some portal, you're going to recognize it and say, oh yeah, I've been here before. And I know this is it's kind of like the calm before, or the storm before the calm, you know, or the fire, the forest fire burning down before the growth happens. I mean, it's just part of it. And this is what's been so beautiful, is to watch you, you know, going through the ups and downs and handling it with such, you know, maturity and grace. And it's like that right there is the pure work. And that's where I always say to people, look, if you're able to do that over and over and over and over, you're going to make it. Because most people who step into this industry, you know, coaches, healers, entrepreneurs, what happens is when I see people like go into the abyss of like, I can't handle this. This is like, you know, I'm failing, or I just had a bad launch, or that didn't work out. And then they just spiral downward and they give up. And I've seen so many people give up. And that's where it's like the resilience of just knowing like, okay, you know, this is the ups and downs. And you would have an up and down at a job, whether, you know, so it's kind of the same thing. It's like, entrepreneurship just feels so much scarier because it's like yourself, and it's this deeper level of self-trust. And also you, like, as your business, like being your authenticity is scary, but it's like, it's what the world wants and needs. I'm curious, you know, I always love to ask my clients this question, but I'm curious what else you've noticed that is not connected to your business that has changed. I mean, you know, yes, you had a over $10,000 month. Yes, you have this ayahuasca retreat that you're leading, which by the way is like freaking amazing. I've never even done that yet, and I dream of it one day. But, you know, I'm curious, like, have you noticed any other like side effects?
I'm trying to think of something specific.
Or like,
well, one really big thing that has happened that is sort of business related, but not totally. So I was saying earlier that I was doing my business. Mystical Heart Collective was founded by me and my partner, John. And I have always been kind of the main, you know, person in the business. Like I do all of the social media, and he, you know, we have a podcast together, and he's a really good coach as well. But he is a completely different kind of person than me. He's very hands-on. Like he is on the path to carry medicine because he's a medicine man. He's the man you want with the drum and the tobacco and the ceremony. And his presence is healing. Like just his being is healing. And that's not something that comes through on social media. You know, he's not a person that will sit at a computer and like write an email. Like that's just not his thing. And so we had this, you know, when I started working with you, I was very like attached to us doing it together. And it had been this difficult thing in our relationship. Like we wanted to work together. There are many parts of working together that we really loved. And there were many parts of it that we did not love and that were really like jacking up our actual romantic relationship, which is the whole reason that we were partners in the first place. We didn't partner together to be in work together. And over the summer, you know, when you were talking about me like going through this like angry whatever, I was like having a time because I got some clients at the beginning of the summer. And then I was like, yes, okay, this is going to work. It's going to work. And then the whole summer was just dead. Like, not only was I not getting clients, I didn't have any leads. I wasn't feeling good about it. Like something felt really stuck. And I actually went to visit one of our mastermind. I went to see Marissa in San Diego over the summer. And I ended up actually like working a lot while I was there because she had a conference she had to go to. It was like kind of a weird timing how it worked out. But I was in the process of, you know, really digging into the sales process and everything. And I realized like that the block was nothing to do with what I was doing in the business. It was John. It was me and John. And it was, I had been feeling this, like, I need this to be mine because it is mine. I'm like trying to include this other person and he's not participating. Like none of this is his and he's not interested in it being his. He didn't want to participate. And so I was sort of trying to force this thing to happen that didn't want to happen. And it was like, I had to realize like, you have to do this on your own. And I remember I went into the group and I was like, I just need to say this in the group. Like, I need to say that I want to be on my own and I don't know what it looks like. And I have this brand and, you know, I've built this whole thing. I have a website, this beautiful website that I love. And I don't want to have to, like, the amount of work that I would have to redo and change my name and all this. I was so, like, overwhelmed by the idea of doing this. But I knew energetically that this was something that had to happen. And I went into the group and I was like, I'm quitting my partnership with my partner. We're just going to be romance partners. I just want to love him. I don't want to work with him. I hate working with him. I love making the podcast with him, but the rest of it sucks. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. And he's totally on board with it. Like, it was like a relief for us. And as soon as I did that, I signed 2 clients. I made like, you know, $13,000 within like 48 hours of doing that. And I was like, holy shit, these energetic shifts are so big. And this wasn't about work. Like, this was about me letting go of the attachment to how I think things need to be and really paying attention to how I feel, because that's the compass. Like, that's the map. You don't have to look outside yourself. Everything that I have learned in the program has always been like, okay, take that in and sit with it. And now, like, how do you feel? Because you have the answer. You don't have to look outside yourself. You don't need Beth to tell you. Like, she's told you, here, do this, whatever, here's the thing. But what you have really taught me is how to trust myself and to really listen to, instead of forcing things because I think I should do them a certain way, or having an attachment to the way my business used to be or how I imagined it would be, how it could be instead, which is a completely bigger feeling. Like, so much is coming through. I have another program that is like incubating now. It's coming through. That is like, I'm like shake when I talk about it. I'm so excited about it because it wouldn't come through if I was trying to, you know, include this other person. So that's probably the biggest thing that's happened for me. And that has directly led to us, like, during that same time, we had manifested this house. A friend of ours had given us a place to live for a year, where we were kind of caretaking some land for him. So we had a really great deal where, like, that was part of me being able to keep doing this and not have another job job, because I had a place to live and I didn't have to worry about, you know, a bunch of rent or anything. And that situation had started to deteriorate over the summer due to something that I did by making it deteriorate because I didn't like the situation. And all of this kind of happened at once. Like, I kind of got in trouble with my friend, and then it became clear, we were like, also, we don't want to live here anymore. Like, I want to just be friends with my friend. I don't want this like energy of, you know, we're living at your land and I don't know, it just didn't feel good anymore. And so now we're moving to Asheville from Austin. I'm a lifelong Texan. I lived in Ecuador for a while, but this is my first time to like live in a different state. So I'm moving to the East Coast. I'm excited. And we're going to be there in January. And my partner's sister and mom live there. So we've been kind of called there for a while, but we're relocating, and yeah, we're spending a month in Ecuador with some clients that are in my program now. They're coming to the retreat, and so it's our first time to do a retreat with clients in the program that we started them 6 weeks ago, so they're getting 6 weeks of preparation, and then we'll do the retreat, and then we work with them for 4 months for integration. So we're working with them until the spring. So I'm really excited to see how this experience unfolds as far as the whole program, and John is, doing his own thing, and he's much happier. And like, I started doing solo podcasts, which I'm really getting tons of amazing feedback from, and we're still doing stuff together when it feels good. So it's just all of it has been, I tell him all the time, like, this is the best money I spent joining this mastermind, because it gave me all this business love, but it really like improved my life in so many other ways and help me just get out of my own way. Oh my God, like, get out of your own way. And if I can do that for my clients, like, I feel like that is the most valuable thing that you can have, like more valuable than learning any strategy or whatever. Like, that stuff to me, I was writing in the group yesterday, I'm like, Beth is a spiritual coach. She pretends to be a business coach. She's like a spiritual guide.
The secret is out. No.
I know. I don't think it's a secret, but and you are a good business coach too.
Oh yeah.
But it's like, it's so much more than I expected. And all the people that you bring in, like, I've been working with Brian Moon for all this year. I love him. He's so great. Beth brings in this astrologer that we get to have a session with, and he blew my mind. I've been working with him all year. There's just so many people you get to meet, and not just the people that she brings in, but the people that are attracted to this program. I'm telling all my friends about it. I'm like, you got it. If you need a business coach, this is the one. You should do it. It's great.
Oh, thank you so much. No, I love this, because I'm like, I actually for years have been saying, well, I'm kind of like a open your heart coach in disguise, but you can't market that, because that's, it's one of these things where it's like people don't see that as the issue. But really in the end, it's just like you said, like this deeper embodiment of yourself and trusting yourself and tapping into the feeling of like, okay, what is it I want and what feels good? And having the coach there to help you make it a little more effective, to learn. There are certain like 3D things that are like, okay, here's what you want to do. Here's how you make it more effective. Here's what's coming through your channel. Here's how you make it effective in this kind of 3D world we live in today. And that's kind of where, over the years I realized, I'm like, the business stuff only goes so far. And to me, the quote strategies and the kind of tangible business stuff is actually the easiest part. The hardest part is like what you've gone through, is really realizing like who you are, what you want, not being, like speaking your truth unapologetically, like without any care or concern, and just knowing it's like, here I am in this pillar of light. And that pillar, when you start to just embody like who you are and your authenticity, everything around you starts to shift. And yes, then that's where the people that are meant to be with you will attract in towards you. But that is the hardest thing to get to. And I get it, because I still go through it at different levels, but it took me many, many years to just be fully in that place of like, oh, I'm not letting these patterns run behind the scenes, or the subconscious, or the belief systems, or, this old way of being. And I'm going to step into this truth. So Sinclair, I want to leave us a couple minutes to talk about, what you have coming up. I know you're about to go to Ecuador, like literally next week. Yeah. You have these amazing programs. Like, there's just more and more that I've noticed happening in your business over time. But where, what would you tell people that you have coming up in the next like 6 or 12 months? And, like, who is it for?
So I have a few things. My program, Rise and Align, is my number one like signature offer, and it combines everything I do into one place. It's coaching, curriculum, and community. So you get the group, you get the private coaching, and you get a curriculum, a digital course that is going to take you through your entire process. And it's really for anyone who's on the medicine path, who And that, to me, that means people who either are ready to work with medicine or who have been working with it for a while, but you're not getting the results that you want. Maybe you keep finding yourself stuck in these, limiting beliefs, the pattern, negative thought patterns, like you're repeating. I say, like, you're self-sabotaging. You have maybe you have a harsh inner critic. Maybe you see yourself in a perfectionism loop. Like, there's so many parts of that. That is very common, especially in spiritual world, like just getting in your own way. So my program is designed to give you all the tools and support and like love that and space that you need to get out of your own way so that you can actually enjoy your life. Because it's not about the business. It's not about having the money. It's not about having the relationship. It's not about having the house. It's about how you feel. And if you can feel good, then all of that stuff will come to you easily. So what I say my program delivers is it enables you to be present and be fully authentic in yourself and be who you are so that you can enjoy your life and have fun and like reap the benefits of being here and getting to wake up and like getting to work with these medicines. And so you can be in service, because the service piece is about healing ourselves. But when you're ready to level up from just healing yourself to expanding that into how can I be in service to the greater good, that's where I want to take people, is from that like, okay, I need to get myself aligned so that I can expand. And, you say this all the time, like share my medicine with the world. So that program is open all the time. I don't have a start date for it because I like people to come in at different times. So there's people are at all these different phases, and it's really helpful to see someone who's been in the program for 4 months or something and like, what are they experiencing? And I actually did this because of your mastermind, how people kept joining. And like, it was really cool to have new people come in, for a few months at the beginning. So Rise and Align is open. I also just partnered with some friends, some colleagues at Our Future is Ancient. And Pia is my friend that owns that business, and she's a retreat leader. She's German. She's based out of Germany, but she's in Mexico. And we're doing psilocybin retreat with her in February 12th to the 19th. And they're doing one, I think they have one January, February, March, April, but I'm doing integration support for this retreat. So if you're interested in mushrooms, doing a week in Mexico, it's at the beach, like where the jungle meets the beach. And we're really excited to start this collaboration, and hopefully we're seeing how the first one goes, but I will offer integration support. So Rise and Align is open to anyone who comes through that retreat. And then if you want to do retreat with John and I, will be at the February retreat. So that's open for booking, and her website is ourfutureisancient.com. And the retreat is called Soul Medicine. And we're going to Ecuador. Our medicine family works and lives in Ecuador outside of Mindo. It's called Hayulima. And they just put their retreat schedule out for next year. And I think they're only doing retreats for the first 9 months of the year. They have one every month. But if you were looking for a place to go to ayahuasca in San Pedro, I cannot recommend a better place. We'll be back there in the spring. We're more like going at a time. We're not really taking a group there that time. But that is where I recommend if you're looking for a retreat. My program works perfectly with their retreat. So they have a 12-day retreat. It's very affordable. It's in the cloud forest. Their medicine is so strong and amazing. And I've like just consistently level up every time I go there. I'm about to go take another level up. And I have another program that I'm working on, and I think I'm going to probably launch it in the spring, but it's going to be a year long and have some San Pedro component. San Pedro is my medicine, and I really want to have a space for people who are in service to just take care of themselves, and not just to do like healing, but like expanding. Like, I want it to be a space for creators to expand and like through joy and celebration, and so I don't know what it's going to be, but it wants to come. I'm sure I'm going to get some more downloads from it, but My website is mysticalheartcollective.com, and you can click on work with me. I have my digital courses are also available for like self-study, and I have a free master class called 3 Keys to Unlock Your Soul Mission with Plant Medicine, and you can sign up for that. And I learned how to make a great workshop by working with Beth. So that's my one that I just have recently been teaching, and I'm giving it away as a free gift because I really like it. So yeah. And I have a podcast.
Yeah. Well, we'll put all the links.
Psychedelic Integration podcast. Yeah. So John and I are on there. We have I have so many guests scheduled. I'm going to invite you on, Beth.
Oh, yes,
when I get
please.
moved. Yeah.
I
I want to ask you all these awesome questions that you asked me. But yeah, that's what's coming up.
Yeah, and we're going to have the links, including the psilocybin retreat in Mexico, which, by the way, looks amazing. So we'll have all that right here in the show notes for everybody to look at. And check out Sinclair's work. I can't wait for this new program with San Pedro. It's funny because there's been 3 people in my field in the last like 6 months who've mentioned something similar, but nothing's official yet. And I'm like, but I do believe it's also a very important medicine for these times that we're in, especially as you said, the healers, the caretakers, to learn how to really do it for yourself and love yourself and be in service to yourself so you can serve the world on a higher level. Sinclair, this is incredible. I thank you so much for, first of all, coming on here and sharing your voice and your truth and doing this work for the world, but also thank you for trusting me. Thank you for trusting this community. And, it's just been incredible. I agree. It's like such an amazing group every time. It's just every time I'm blown away that this is like a group of people that are serving this planet that are just so high level and amazing. And so thank you so much for showing up for yourself, for the group, for trusting yourself and showing up for the world because the world needs you more than ever right now. Thank you.
I wish that we could stay in the mastermind for like another year. I'm going to be really sad when it's over.
We'll figure something out. Yeah. I keep having this dream of like creating a retreat that we all just meet at, but I'm like, oh my God, one of these days I'll get around to this.
You're a busy lady. You got to.
I know. I've been talking. My friend owns a beautiful retreat center, and I've mentioned this to her for like 2 years, and I'm like, no, maybe next year. And then they're like booked up. I'm like, well, one of these days,
maybe we should create a Burning Man camp and go Burning Man.
Oh yeah, that's actually, I literally said that to my friend this weekend. I said, we're doing like a medicine camp, but I don't know who's doing it. I just said it exists.
Let me know. I would love to. I haven't been back since 2018, and I was like, I'm gonna go this year. I'm ready to get back out there.
I haven't been since 2017, which was also my dark night year as well. Yeah. I just didn't quit drinking that year, but I went through everything else.
That was the ringer.
Crazy.
Well, thank you so much, Beth. I love talking to you, and I really appreciate you. Thanks for having me.
Great having you here.